You probably remember in a previous video when I have said this. And to me, it's less important that you have a plan in hand for when the Joker appears than it is understanding that the Joker isn't real. That The Dark Knight is a pretty good movie, but it is very steeped in post 9/11 United States ideology. That one day a terrorist will just appear on your doorstep. They don't have any names, they don't have any story, they're just the reincarnation of evil, hell-bent on destroying the American way of life. And at the time I didn't really think much about it. I mean, it's an American movie about the terrorists that are going to terrorize American cities, but I wasn't that deep in Batman lore at that time. After witnessing many discussions online and actually getting into the stories as well, I noticed that there might be something else here that is worth looking into. I remember when I was looked at the Seventh Circle of Hell, also known as Twitter, and people were discussing the new Batman movie, and they were talking about how the city of Gotham actually felt like something with an actual personality and not just real life Chicago. I remember thinking, well, it makes sense, because if you're going to make a movie that has a character that is a foreigner and a terrorist that is here to corrupt the American way, then it makes sense that your city would be just like any other city, to make people more scared that it could happen to them. Wait a second, the Nolan Joker is the only Joker that is very explicitly a foreigner. And I'm not saying that the cartoon Joker is not Swedish or something, hell, he might be, but he is very explicitly portrayed as being a part of the city. He is a part of the underground, he has his gangs, and he has a Gotham girlfriend that he beats. But the Nolan movies make a very explicit attempt to dehumanize the Joker.
No matches on prints, DNA, dental, clothing is custom, no labels. Nothing in his pockets but knives and lint. No name.
He's not a person, he's just a metaphor for chaos.
I'm an idea.
And when you think about it, the Nolan movies are the only movies in which every single villain is a foreign terrorist, the exception of Scarecrow, which is being bankrolled by a terrorist.
I am more than aware that you are not intimidated by me, Mr. Falcone, but you know who I'm working for.
And Two-Face, which to me is just an extension of the idea of Gotham being average American city. Harvey Dent is an average American guy.
If you want to kill a public servant, Mr. Maroney, I recommend you buy American.
Maybe even a hero and an idealist that just got corrupted by the terrorists. I realized that there was potential for a lot of well-crafted and researched analysis, but then I saw that some cartoon reviewer watched Turning Red and criticized that this Pixar children's movie didn't accurately portray the effects of 9/11 in Canadian culture. Holy shit, I need to get into this bandwagon. So I'm making this video right now. Trying to get those easy views, baby. It honestly surprises me when people act with such rejection to the idea of politics in superhero movies, because to me, superhero movies are the most political movies ever made. Pitch to a room your movie idea, which is a good guy that is punching a bad guy. Someone raises their hands and asks, who's the good guy and who's the bad guy? Bam, your movie just became political. Even the idea of a good guy helping a bad guy is political, as evidenced by the fact that Lily Orchard humiliated herself in public over the idea, and I had to step in and essentially give her a 43-minute wedgie. Of course, some movies are more political than others. For example, it's hard to think about a movie that is more political than having your foreign terrorist being a communist that is all up for a revolution of the people, which is actually a lie and a sham, and blows up an American football stadium in which everyone cheers for the same team while a child sings the United States anthem.
That's a lovely, lovely voice.
It's really hard to be more political than that. But if I had to put my finger on what differentiates the Nolan Batman movies from every single Batman media I have ever consumed in my life is that Batman expects to retire as Batman in some kind of near future. I'm not saying that it's unprecedented that the Batman doesn't like to be Batman. It's actually shown in many mediums as an exceptional kind of sacrifice, that he's only doing this because he feels obligated to.
The nightmare is over.
But he understands that this is something that he's basically going to do for the rest of his life. Crime is always going to rise up, people are always going to be in danger, and he always needs to do something to help them. Maybe there is a story out there in which Batman kind of wants to do this for like 10 years, but in most stories that I have read, it's actually portrayed as a vow that he made on his parents' grave, that no child had to go through what he has gone, and that sounds like something very permanent to me, if you're asking. And he actually makes plans to retire with this fucking random lady, and Harvey Dent is like, well, I need to take over as Batman. It's not like he's going to be Batman and fighting crimes for 80 years, right? That would be ridiculous. And you see, the thing isn't that he doesn't want to be Batman or is making plans to retire. The thing is that he actually succeeds, which is crazy to me. Third movie starts, and everyone's like, well, we passed the law, so there's no more crime, no more criminals. The police doesn't have anything else to do.
When you and Dad cleaned up the streets, you cleaned them good. Pretty soon we'll be chasing down overdue library books.
Gotham with no crime, that sounds doable. And that is the thing that differentiates Nolan movies from every other Batman movie, in my opinion. It's the idea that evil is a thing that can be fought over and won. The Tim Burton Penguin was a baby that was thrown in the sewer. Catwoman was in the receiving end of an actual attempt on her life because her boss was a very corrupt man. Edward Nygma was a very egocentric genius that received a no for his project and was mistreated by his boss, so he killed him. All of those people are normal people that went through one bad day. That line comes from The Killing Joke, which is probably the story that most heavily inspired The Dark Knight. In that story, the Joker kidnaps Gordon because he wants to show his ideology, and the reason that he believes it is because this actually happened to him. He used to be a citizen of Gotham. He used to have a wife that he cared for a lot. He entered crime so that he could help her, but she ended up dying in a tragic accident. His partners in crime stitched him and he fell into acid, becoming disfigured and becoming the Joker. Of course, this is all a very simplistic summary. I do recommend you reading the story. It's actually pretty short and one of the most acclaimed comics ever made, so there is literally no reason for you not to read this. And the thing about Nolan is that he takes this story but completely goes against it. Yes, he talks about the one bad day that leads people to insanity.
See, madness, as you know, is like gravity. All it takes is a little push.
But in the original story, the Joker fails. Gordon doesn't become insane like the Joker. And Barbara, while what happened to her was tragic, she actually manages to become Oracle and have a very satisfying life helping Batman anyway, because she realized that while she loved being Batgirl, her passion was helping people and she could keep doing this. And the Joker has this face when he asks why Batman isn't laughing, because he noticed that, his plan is falling apart, that maybe people aren't like him. But while he is proven wrong, it's a story that manages to humanize him, and you do understand where he's coming from. While in the Nolan movies, he is a dehumanized terrorist that has no ideology other than to bring chaos.
Not about money. It's about sending a message. Everything burns.
And he actually succeeds in doing what he wanted. He corrupts the hero, Harvey Dent, and then Batman essentially has to break all the citizens of Gotham privacy to track the terrorist down and kill him. And while the movie tries to portray this as being morally wrong,
This is wrong.
It's nonetheless shown as effective, and we wouldn't have managed to defeat the terrorists if it weren't for a breach in privacy, so just suck it up, citizen. I know that it looks like I'm cheating a lot on The Dark Knight, but it's actually my favorite Batman movie because it does show a very complicated situation and very complicated debates. Harvey Dent was a person that was trying to do his best, and he succeeded in doing a lot of things that were good.
Think of all you could do with 18 months of clean streets.
But Gotham is a very corrupt city, and he can't do it alone. The system fought back.
But you spat in the faces of Gotham's criminals. Didn't you think there might be some casualties?
James Gordon tried and wanted to do his best, but he couldn't trust his own people.
Harvey, I need to know which of my men I can trust.
Why would you listen to me now?
And with all of that, it does come with a message that while people can be inspired to do evil, people can also be inspired to be good. And honestly, I think it's a pretty good movie because there are no easy answers. While the Joker is an easy villain and it's someone that you hate and that you absolutely see as a monster, he's only there because people hired him to kill the Batman. And yeah, they were mobsters and they were criminals and gang members, but they were normal people, they weren't monsters, they exist in every city.
You didn't know what they were gonna do? You're the second cop to say that to me. What exactly did you think they were gonna do?
They got me early on, my mother's hospital bills. And
Don't!
Sorry.
It's actually a pretty nuanced, a pretty complex movie, which is insane if you consider that in the first movie, Ra's al Ghul told Batman that the League of Shadows created corruption in Gotham.
Over the ages, our weapons have grown more sophisticated. With Gotham, we tried a new one, economics.
Plot twist, Ra's al Ghul is Brazilian. How do I talk about the other two movies? Because holy shit. Not like in Silent Hill, when the first and the third games was about like people trying to invoke a god or whatever, and the second game was just crazy and they doing a bunch of crazy shit because they wanted to. I think that's kind of what happened here, because it almost feels like a complete divorce from the themes of the second movie. As I have said, they just ended crime. You know, they were working so hard on the second movie and they needed to go against judges and they needed to go against all the mob accomplices and all the money launderers, and the Joker came in and fucked everything up, and then the third movie they were just like, yep, there's no crime. It's honestly kind of jarring. And I guess it kind of ties into the thing I said before about how Batman expects to retire, because there are no new criminals being made. The only criminals that were not tied to the League of Shadows were Two-Face and the Joker. Everybody else is a League of Shadows member or former member or is being bankrolled by them. And we are expected to believe that the League of Shadows is the main supervillain force. It's not like the Batman mythos, which some crazy person decides to rob a bank. That doesn't happen here.
I think you and I are destined to do this forever.
They went against the League of Shadows in the first movie, but then the daughter and Bane, that is from League of Shadows, find out for some reason. Bane is not treated well in those live action movies, holy shit. And they decide to continue the work, and then that's it, they're done. The dude whose middle name is Robin gets the Batcave. It's very non-ambiguously a happy ending. Gotham will not miss Batman. It's so crazy to me because in the end of the first movie,
We start wearing Kevlar. They buy armor-piercing rounds.
Yeah.
And you're wearing a mask. Jumping off rooftops.
but they didn't. They solved crime and now everything is fine. They defeated the terrorists. And now is the time when you interrupt me and say, well, Laura, okay, but what's your point? The Dark Knight trilogy is clearly a product of its time. It's pretty evident by the fact that the Joker says that gasoline is cheap. So why are you making us this video? I don't know. I don't know why I'm doing this video. I mean, I'm doing this video because I want to talk about this with someone and there are very few people in my life that are as crazy as I am. But there are a few reasons why I can think of why this video isn't a complete waste of time. First of all is that I actually keep fighting people in my life that don't know that Marvel movies are essentially propaganda for the American army, which is crazy to me because in the Captain Marvel movie, she literally points at the logo of the American Air Force and says, I want to wear these colors. And it kind of shows how stupid those people that don't think superhero movies have politics really are, because the fucking Pentagon doesn't agree with you. But also, I think there's less dramatic, less depressing, and more practical use for this video. One thing that I noticed is that Batman movies are very reactionary towards each other. What this means is that nobody makes a new Batman movie because they're happy with how the last one turned out. The first one was Batman 66, which was very fun but very campy and clearly something for the children, for families.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
And then Tim Burton said, well, I want to make a dark Batman movie. Not gonna even read the comics, fuck that. I'm going to make something super dark. And then the second movie was too dark, too scary for children, and then Joe Schumacher made Batman Forever, which was much sillier. But then Batman Robin kinda sucked and nobody made Batman movies for the next 10 years until Nolan came and said, I want to make Batman awesome again. Instead of making it very colorful and very silly, I'm gonna make it kind of realistic and make Batman an American hero that fights terrorists. And it's very clear to me that the new Batman is a direct response to this Batman.
Bruce Wayne, billionaire orphan? I mean, we used to make up stories about you, man. Legends.
Because we are in a different zeitgeist than we were in 2005. American invasion of Afghanistan has failed. The American people are actually discussing things like universal healthcare that they don't have because it's a shit country, and how they shouldn't spend trillions of dollars bombing people. So this Nolan movie doesn't fly anymore. You need a Batman for the new age, a Batman that is more compassionate. So you see, you can actually predict how the next Batman will turn out if you analyze the zeitgeist of our time and the previous movie. It's probably going to be a little more complicated right now because I don't know if they are going to make a shared universe with this Batman. They might. I don't know what's going to come out of that. But if they don't, then you can pretty much wait until our zeitgeist changes and see what the previous movie did, and you can pretty much guess how the next Batman movie will turn out. My prediction is that it's going to be sillier and more colorful, but I don't know what the next 5 years hold for us. It could be anything, so I am open to being wrong. And I guess this is one of the reasons that I wasn't actually very satisfied with the new Batman. While I was reading all these stories and watching all those movies, I ended up noticing that filmmakers are very full of themselves, aren't they? They just go and say, well, I'm gonna make the new Batman, the bestest Batman, the Batman that makes you forget about all those CD comics and make you respect him for real. But the thing is that comics are in a much more advanced place of discussion than movies. The new Batman's like, well, you can't just keep fighting people and expecting all your problems to be solved. Like, dude, we've been through this already. Jesus, I think that the first season of Gotham even was better than this movie. Bruce Wayne already understood that he was a person with responsibilities over his fortune and his company. He wanted to understand how poor people lived, and you had to follow a young Jim Gordon having to navigate a very corrupt police force and actually have to deal with the fact that his partner is a very corrupt person. Don't take this as a recommendation of Gotham because I dropped it. Poison Ivy was a child and they aged her up and made her sexy, and I couldn't watch it anymore. But the first season is good, and as I have said before with the Killing Joke, we have been doing this for a very long time. We have been deconstructing, reconstructing in this dialectical scheme between authors and comic book writers for decades now. And it makes me very sad that the comics aren't very respected in that regard. Shafrilas made a review of that movie, and nothing against the guy, but he went like,
Bruce obviously went through a lot of pain, but not nearly the same amount as actual poor orphans, which, I never really thought about that.
Really? You haven't? It has been discussion for decades. I'm not pointing fingers here. I'm not saying that it's necessarily the director's fault. I do respect their right to do absolutely anything they want to do. Maybe I blame the movie-going audience, I don't know. Maybe we just take comics for granted, don't we? We see there were decades of legacy and we just don't really think it over. But again, I'm not really blaming audiences. You can consume whatever you want. Nobody's forcing you to read comics. I guess I'm not really doing anything, am I? I'm just talking to the wind right now. Okay, what the fuck? What is going on with this movie? I don't understand. I really don't. It's just... You know why I have these eye bags underneath? They're so dark? It's because this movie has drained all my energy. I was feeling tired after watching it. I watched the version on HBO Max. It's 3 hours long. Okay, here's the thing. Batman vs Superman tries to comment on superheroes, on what if they have the right to do bad things, to do good things, if they have so much power. Superman fighting the other alien caused a lot of damage, and people are questioning if Superman should be allowed to do whatever he wants. And it's a very good debate. Do you just cross your fingers and hope that he will never turn against us? Or try to stop him, something that we don't even know if it's possible? And Batman is a very paranoid person. He is like that in the comics as well. He is always prepared because he understands he's just a man and he lives in a world with gods and monsters. So he makes plans to get rid of Superman because he's scared. But it doesn't really go anywhere because they just drop it and it's like, oh yeah, Lex Luthor is now insane and he raises this fucking alien. Why is the alien even here? It's supposed to be Batman versus Superman, not Batman and Superman versus this guy. And the reason this movie frustrates me so much is because I kind of understand what they're trying to do here. They want to show Batman as someone that is properly paranoid. He does fear that, but he's also kind of racist, being like, well, you're not a person, you're not brave because you're not a human, you fucking alien. But then they just keep fucking it up. Batman keeps branding people and those people keep getting killed in jail. I don't understand how A leads to B in this case. I would assume that in Gotham, having a brand saying that you fought Batman would actually be a badge of honor. If I were the Penguin and I was choosing between crooks for me, I would try to choose someone that fought Batman before and knows how he acts. That would be very interesting information. But yeah, they die for some reason, I don't understand why. And then like Superman is kind of tired, fed up with all this shit, and his mom comes and say, well, you don't owe anyone anything, which is crazy to me. Is this the lady that raised Superman and made him a paragon of virtue, that imbued such a strong moral compass to this godlike alien? Yeah, that sounds like Martha Kent, alright? There's like this side plot because Lois Lane goes to Africa with Jimmy Olsen, and Jimmy Olsen is like a CIA spy, and he dies. They shoot Jimmy Olsen. They fucking hit Jimmy Olsen. Thank God the Riddler is not in this movie. I mean, we were all very upset that the guy who did Lex Luthor didn't do the Riddler, because honestly, that was the part that he was born to play. But going off what they did with Jimmy Olsen here, he would probably be a Hamas double agent that immediately dies by stepping on a landmine or something. Anyway, so apparently Luthor bribed people to testify against Superman, saying that he killed a bunch of people, and he faked Superman killing all those people, and Lois Lane discovers because of a bullet that was manufactured specifically on Lex Luthor Corporation. It was like a very special bullet. Leaving aside that you don't leave a very special bullet that only you produce if you're going to frame someone else, Superman doesn't shoot people. You can't frame a killing by Superman by shooting the guy. And Lex Luthor has no reason to do this. He's just like, yeah, I had a philosophy course while I was in college, so now I want to kill God. I don't know what to say here. I really don't. I can't comment on this movie because I literally don't understand anything that's happening. So yeah, how do I end this video? Well, thank you for listening thus far. I know that it's not an easy process. Another thing I said was an actual review of the movie. As I said, Dark Knight is a very good movie and it's my favorite Batman movie, so I'm not saying that Nolan is a racist or whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, well, the Nolan movies are a product of its time, and it's very interesting that we can discuss the role that politics have in the media that we consume. Of course, I'm not saying that politics influence every single media that we consume, and especially if you're making a children's movie, it's okay if you're not going to put the effects of a devastating act of terrorism like that. You don't have to do this, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that this kind of shit really influences a movie because it influences your politics and your viewpoints in life. And those things really affect the kind of shit that you do. Lindsay Ellis has a very good video about alien invasions, about how 9/11 changed how War of the Worlds was made. I highly recommend you check it out. And I guess see you soon or see you later for my next video. Bye bye.